mate. Right on timing. As always, we're proud to have for the first time here on Football Fever, Robbie Stanton, former Newcastle Jets A-League coach, now part of Graham Arnold's coaching team and assistant coach of the Iraq national team. Good evening, Robbie.
How you going? All good?
Well, it's good to see that you're on time, Robbie. You're 3 minutes early, so that's pretty disciplined. So that's what you were like as a player at Sydney, Croatia.
Yeah, pretty much. I was always first on pitch, so
Yeah.
it's just a habit. Try to be on time and early, and yeah, don't like to be late.
Mate, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it. Welcome home. Welcome back from an exciting, Iraqi World Cup qualifying campaign, but also quite scary at times with what's going on in that part of the world. You and Arnold and Zeljko Kalac and in Mawston, and amongst others, got caught up in that. You got up one morning to leave, and they said to you, "You can't leave, huh?"
Yeah, look, Spider. Yeah, it's the old Sydney Croatia days. All three of us there from Sydney Croatia back in the early days, and Spider was due to leave 11 o'clock at night. He did. We said our goodbyes. The rest of us were leaving the next day. I woke up this morning with a message saying flight cancelled. Spider messaging saying I got the last flight out of there. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but it didn't dampen the experience or the challenge and the excitement and the what I got from going there. The Iraqi people are fantastic, beautiful people, very welcoming. Also, they're extremely passionate football people. You could the level of exposure is probably 10 times the A-League in terms of media and social media. I saw that firsthand when I went with Graham straight away. Just from his first interview was unbelievable with the amount of people and the scrutiny he was under and how he managed that. So it was a good growth moment for me to watch it up close and how he worked as well. So really enjoyed the going in there and taking on the challenge.
Robbie, coming from the A-League, conservative, politically correct, any flares considered hooliganism, and you've gone into Iraq that, only has come out of, some severe wars in the last 10, 15 years and obviously other problems. What were when you landed there, what were the big differences that you saw and that were glaring on your first touchdown?
I think you saw they were rebuilding as a nation. You can see that straight away. There's lots of construction going on and changes going on. There's lots of work happening around Iraq and Baghdad and that. So you could see that there was a very mild atmosphere. Like you drive on the roads, there doesn't seem to be a lot of in Sydney, you'd have, organised the way they drive and that. But over there, it just seems to work like a lot of countries overseas. When you go, they don't sort of have a lot of rules, but everything works really well. No one gets sort of angry or upset, and just the way they do things differently. So it was a bit of a culture shock. Obviously, it's quite hot and humid and tough conditions, but I just was blown away by changes that you could see they were making through the nation and just on our journeys, venturing out to watch games, the way they approached their game and the passion that the fans had and everyone else so welcoming to me and Graham and you could just see that everything was riding on qualification for the World Cup, which they haven't done since '86. So pressure was always there, and you could feel that everywhere around the place. Everyone is invested in the game there. It's the number one sport, and 46 million people follow it. So it's quite big and challenging. But that's the first thing I noticed.
Remember when the deal came along quite quickly, and you guys had to get on a plane within, I don't know, 4 days you didn't even have your contracts done when you jumped on a plane. And the stress of Mr. Adnan, the president of football Iraq, was evident. Tell us a bit about the players and how they accept, a bunch of Australians effectively coming in, a whole new structure, including the sports science and the physios.
Mate, they embraced it straight away. Like I said, I did quite a bit of research in the first 7 to 10 days when I arrived, just to familiarise myself with all the players. We had to put together a matrix list on all the players that played in the the most second and third window of the qualifiers just to get a feel of the players. There was 100 player list that I got a hold of as well. So once we built that, we started to sort of familiarise ourselves, get to know the players from afar on paper, games, looking at games. So we could sort of piece together who the players were, familiarize ourselves, names, faces, things like that. So when we met the players, we could make an instant connection with them, recognize them straight away, and build the relationship from day one, which we did, which was very, very helpful. Obviously, Ali Abbas came on as an interpreter that fastened and improved the connection straight away as well. So we had a familiar face there working closely with the players. And then once we started to lay down the process and what Graham wanted to do, we created clarity for the players, even though some might spoke English and some didn't. And we held meetings and things like that to build that relationship, to give them the belief that, because they're under a lot of pressure. They feel a lot of pressure, the players, and there's a lot of scrutiny. So we wanted to make sure that they saw us working really hard to build that relationship straight away. And then once we got on the park, we connected really well with the players and was able to get the messages across quite clearly. And the players reacted with two really excellent performances for such a short turnaround to have those performances. Like I said, they're under a lot of pressure. Everyone is there to qualify. So we made a really good connection there, and they were very welcoming to the suggestions on how we should move forward.
How does it work? How's it working in the Middle East and specifically Iraq compared to your experiences, whether you're an assistant coach at Sydney FC or whether you're the senior coach in Newcastle? What are the 2 or 3 glaring and obvious culture shocks that may have confronted you?
Well, like for me, I was tasked with, putting the sessions every day with the staff and that. So I'd have to put them together really quickly and what we were doing, and then write them up, and also did set pieces. So the big connection there was I had to find a way to make it really clear on what we needed to improve on and what we wanted to do out of the set pieces, but also get my messages across. So Google Translate was very, very good. So the words I chose and the pictures that I put up and had to be really clear on what I wanted to do and be quick at that. Ali Abbas helped me when I presented and translated for myself, and Graham and Rene when we had to present something. So that helped greatly. But yeah, that was one of the first challenges is language. Obviously, the environment, the heat is another one. You train at different times, really late at night. So then it throws you out. Players are eating late. And then we introduce, high performance, recoveries, real personal touch from Chris Pappas with each individual player, introduce them to, little things like small gym programs just to get them started, just to introduce things and stuff like that. Structure, routine, just try to, make sure everyone was on the same page every day. When you came to breakfast, we're all in the same kit, things like that. Just not that they didn't have it, but we wanted to make sure that we showed a strong process. The barriers obviously were the heat, the language, and us adapting to the environment and things like that. We had to move quick and adapt really quickly as well to, obviously the religion. Some players are, they pray and things like that. So not that was an issue. They had certain times set up, where the players could do that. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't invasive on personal things such as that. So we wanted to make sure that we got that spot on and wasn't offending anyone. So we made sure of that. And yeah, we just introduced some things slowly, but we had to move quick at the same time. So yeah, there's some challenges, but I was really pleased with how we managed it, and as a staff and that connection we made. So that made it a lot easier. We built some good relationships with all the players and staff too.
Speaking to Arnold and speaking to Spider Kalac, I found it interesting that you guys turned up and there's no mannequins, there's no GPS results. Players playing in the local league haven't been paid, so they're unfit. They're only playing games, they're not going to training. Did that freak you guys out? Did that sort of shock you about that type of experience?
Yeah, look, it was. It's just you can like I said, when we arrived, we really I hit the ground running. Once we realised that there was some things we had to address, and that there were some changes going to be made. There was some whole new staff coming in. Obviously, there was a lot of work for Graham to do. So while he was working on staff and that, I was piecing together players and making those connections and faces and recognise. And then we'd go to games in the nighttime. So yeah, look, it was a little shock, but I think coaching dishes up things like that. You can just take a step back and just process everything, which we did, and prioritize what was really important. And obviously, when the rest of the stuff game came, we had a really good platform to build and move quick, which we did, and were able to hit the ground running. But yeah, look, it was a little shock, but at the same time, yeah, in the end, it didn't really turn me off or turn us off. We just sort of, I could just see a really wonderful opportunity to be challenged and put in a situation where you're a little bit uncomfortable. But if you really work hard and you can achieve something, there's a really big reward at it, and that being qualification to a World Cup, a nation that's extremely passionate, not only about football and life and that you can have a really positive impact. And as I said, there's a lot of scrutiny there from social media and media, magnified 10 times, maybe even 15 times to what we experience here in Australia. So some challenges, but we just dealt with it.
You went into the first game, big expectations. Player gets sent off in the 29th minute. You go down 2-0 to Korea. Tell us the feeling in the country post that loss, and then post the win when you go away and you beat Jordan with a full complement of players. Did you see that the variance was there?
Yeah,
Between
there
those
was.
two
Look,
periods?
yeah, the players were great. Obviously, the loss was disappointing. Considering the short turnaround, it was always going to be a difficult game. But the opportunity there was to get some good evidence, not only for the fans to see, but the players to see when you have a review and a reflection on that. Some of the things we put in place came to life really well. Up until the send-off, we were probably had an upper hand in terms of we were causing problems for them in terms of not allow them to play. And also, we could have been a little bit better with the ball, but we were doing some really good things, and we were in a good position to probably get something out of the game. And in the end, we didn't. So we regrouped. We flew to Jordan. I think going to Jordan relieved a bit of pressure from the players and everyone being in Iraq, because there's so much scrutiny in that, which comes with the role. But once we got to Jordan, we refocused everyone. We set it. We set ourselves a task. We saw opportunity to add another layers to what we'd done, and to reflect on that with the players quickly, and build a plan for Jordan. And we did, and I think it was an excellent performance by the players. I think they controlled the game really well. We pressed them excellently. We scored a good goal, but we were definitely deserving winners, which was good against a nation that's qualified. So yeah, look, there was a lot. I think out of that game, a lot of beliefs come, and you could see a really clear shift in what we wanted to change, and we got a feeling that was happening as well. So still lots of work to do, but really positive.
Robbie, you've been at Sydney FC under Arnold and Corica. You went to Newcastle, different dynamic, more or less a development program. How do Iraqi players and Australian players compare? And where do you, people probably don't know this, but there's about 9 or 10 Iraqi players playing in Holland and in Scandinavian countries, etc. Where do they sit in the pedestal compared to an Australian player?
Yeah, look, I think there's about 18 or 20 players around Asia and Europe. We've sort of had a good look at. I think what I see with Australian players, more organised, more structured in the way they approach the game. They've had more exposure to high performance and things like that, and training methodology is probably a little bit different. The Iraqi players are very, very natural, and they see the game. They want to go forward all the time. So if they see it's on, they'll play pass, and whether it's a longer pass or an aggressive forward pass to try and release a teammate. The game's a little bit different. I could see that. So when we've introduced some structure and that in terms of defending and organisation in some areas, they've reacted really well to it. They've taken it on board. So there's very, very some creative players, very dynamic with the ball, considering the temperatures. They work really, really hard off the ball to when they lose the ball. We saw a really good approach to win the ball back. So we liked and really was impressed with their passion to win the ball back and fight and be aggressive to get the ball back. So there's some similarities. Obviously, like I said, the organisation and the structure and the setup is slightly different on that, but you get that in a lot of countries, and sometimes that's a reflection of how people view the game and how they've been exposed in different ways to the game as well. So But they were very, very open to doing something different. And as I said, we saw some very entertaining games and passionate people at the games as well.
Before I pass you on to the boys, my last question is Iraqi league, the domestic league, as opposed to the A League. How would some of those top 4 or 5 clubs compete in the A League? What level do you think they're at?
Oh yeah, look there's the top clubs like would definitely be on par and be do quite well in the A League. I think they have a 20 league 20 team competition. Yeah, look, it's there's some similarities. Again, they're playing in 35, 40-degree heat, so it's a different dynamic to play in. And what I saw was quite impressive with the way they run and the way they're willing to work. But there are some differences. As I said, the A League's a bit more structured and organised. Both have lots of transitions. The Iraqi League's a little bit more direct. You see a little bit of build-ups, but there's a little bit more directness to their play, as opposed to the A League. The A League's had a lot of exposure in the last 10, 15, 20 years through Dutch and stuff like that with curriculums, and you see a lot of that coming through in the A League. But again, you might get some changes too with younger players getting more exposure, and then I see another shift in the A League as well. So yeah, there's some similarities, but there's some differences as well.
It's
Yeah, Robbie, mate, I'm proud to say my parents and grandparents and etc. born in Iraq, of a Syrian background. So, mate, I can tell you the buzz around Australian Iraqis, that you guys were appointed part of the coaching staff there to take over reins and hopefully take Iraq to another World Cup is, mate, it's gone down very, very well in the local area. Predominantly a lot of the Iraqis, Syrians are out here, out Fairford way, as you know, close to Marconi, Sydney United and whatnot. But, mate, obviously a lot of people are very aware of what the country's gone through in recent times and in the past. And obviously sport and football in particular is sort of what brings them together. And I can tell you from the Golf Cup that they won back in 2023, and before that was the Asian Cup, I think it was in 2007 from memory. And, mate, the streets around here were just ballistic. So you're probably aware now that you've been there how they respond to football and how it is a bit of an escape to them, so that focus of making the World Cup, it's I can tell you, and you like I said, you're probably already aware now, but even locally here, domestically in Australia, mate, there's a pretty big, I suppose, hurdle that the club or that the country's got to go through, but you're obviously aware of that and how much pressure there is.
Yeah, oh, very, very much so. The first press conference I went to when I arrived, I was only a day there with Graham. Obviously, that was his first press conference. I think there was maybe 200 media people. I couldn't believe the amount of people that were jammed into one room. And then that obviously that went viral. Yeah, I was shocked. It's magnified compared to Australia 10, 15 times. Everywhere you go, everyone's talking football. As soon as they spot Graham, obviously they're very aware of who he is. Like everyone's very aware of who he is and what his role is. And yeah, you can just feel it, the pressure. I think probably that's the hardest thing for the players. They're aware of the pressure. Social media is very, very big in Iraq. So there's lots of posting, lots of things happening, and obviously that builds even more pressure. This because the awareness of everyone what's happening. So it's that's the probably the downside is the so much exposure creates a lot of pressure. But in saying that, we're trying to say to the players, this is now is the only thing we need to focus on, and our focus is on qualifying for a World Cup. So and that's where we're channeling all our energy into making sure that we're well prepared, the players are prepared, we're doing our research, our homework, and that we give every opportunity to qualify for the World Cup. We're looking at every player and everyone we can. And that's really important because you can just see, you have a really strong feeling of when we qualify, when I say when we qualify, what it's going to mean to the people of Iraq. You can just feel that it's going to make a lot of people happy and make a lot of people proud to see Iraq compete at the World Cup. And I think it'll be a fantastic thing. And to be part of that is obviously a real privilege. and that's why I could not resist the opportunity to be challenged and put in that situation.
Fantastic.
Robbie, moving forward with everything that's happening now, I know they've blocked flights to go to Dubai, go here, go there. How difficult now is it to prepare, and what's happening? Does it just make it much more extremely difficult now?
Yeah, look, we will know come 16th, 17th for July what our next phase will be, whether we're going to be in Qatar or Saudi. So we'll know then. So we have a little bit of time, and once after that date, we'll definitely know whether we're going to head to Saudi or Qatar for the next phase of qualifying, and then it's just a matter of where we can hold a pre-camp, whether that's back in Iraq or in somewhere like Dubai. That'll be the next sort of challenge of organising that. But we still got time to do all our research and preparation work. Obviously, a lot of internationals about monitoring players, workloads, and trying to keep tabs on them. Making sure they're injury free, making sure they're getting plenty of game time, because you have a really short turnaround when you get the players. We were lucky in the first time we had they postponed the comp for a week so we could hold a longer camp, which we were really grateful to do, which you wouldn't probably get in Australia, but that was able to happen, and we're able to bring the players in as early as we can to work with them. So hopefully the conflict ends. It's obviously I don't really know the full extent of the why, but hopefully it ends, because Iraq sits right in the middle, and it affects flight paths, and there's a lot of things going around Iraq. But I was very surprised. The people of Iraq are very calm. They weren't in any sort of distress. And when I was there, our minders saying, "No, this is normal. Don't worry, it's all good. It's safe." And I never once felt unsafe when I was there.
Excellent.
Obviously, the Australian consulate was, we just kept up to date what was happening. But in the end, we were ready to go home anyway, because our work was finished for this window. So we just had to go out through Kuwait to come home. But other than that, I never sensed or felt any changes. But obviously, there was a lot happening in the distances surrounding Iraq, which is unfortunate.
Just the last one before we let you go, and appreciate everything, unless Stealth's got anything to add. I know your time at Newcastle Jets, you've done a wonderful job. Were you a little bit disappointed at how everything finished there, or were you expecting to continue? Or, I mean, now I suppose you've moved on with the Iraq national team, but I suppose, was it a bit of a shock that you weren't going to continue at the Newcastle Jets?
Hey, look, yes and no. I signed a contract, so I was all signed up for another 2 years, but on the proviso that I could keep and maintain key staff members and that. And so I was sort of that deal had been done, but I needed to make sure that, because I knew we weren't going to increase our budget, which is understandable. The club was, probably two of the toughest years I was there, with the transition and the uncertainty. So yeah, there's a bit of disappointment, but at the same time, I look at it and I go, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. We won't know, but I know for sure that we laid some good foundations. The club's in a better space. And, when I took on the role, I knew that things can change quickly at any given time. But at the same time, I'm really pleased and proud of the work I did under the constraints that I was working under. I think there's signs that it could do really well next year if they can make the adjustments. But in the end, it got down to I needed key things. If we weren't going to increase the playing budget, we certainly need to have the right people there to develop the players to make them better. And I just didn't feel that was going to be possible. And in the end, we couldn't agree on a few things, and it ended. But in saying that, you have to accept the good and the bad, and like I said, I'm proud of the work I did there, and I think it's in a better space. There's still a lot of work to do, but there's some positive signs. And yeah, like I said, disappointed, but in the end, this is football, and you have to move quickly, unfortunately, sometimes.
Stealth, anything else before we thank Robbie for tonight?
Mate, we wish you all the best, Robbie. I think flying the Australian flag as coaches, and whether you're Ange Postecoglou or Peter Klamoski or anyone else that goes out to represent our country as a coach, no different to our players, we wish you every success. I think, geez, you've got a passionate job there. You guys are surrounded by 12 and 15 security at any given time.
Yeah.
Because such is the passion and such is the drive. But it will be a great opportunity, not only for the Iraqi people in Iraq, but for people like Andy and other parts of the world, because Iraqi people all over the world, like a lot of other nationalities, and they're very passionate about their football. And I've seen some of the photos and the police escorts, and something tells me you didn't see that at Sydney or Newcastle.
No, we didn't. But again, it's a little culture shock. But at no time did I feel like I was in any sort of danger or trouble. It was just pure passion, passionate people who love the game. I could see a nation that's rebuilding, that's passionate about the game, but also just really genuine people. Like our Minders, terrific guys, mate. They felt part of the staff. If they were left out, they got a bit upset because they felt they were really part of. We made them feel part of the staff. They took us where we needed to go every day. We've become friends. I message these guys on a daily basis, see how they're going. Those connections are really important. You feel like and we made that connection straight away, and we're there to work. We're there to do the best for the Iraqi people and the game, and I was really excited by that, and it was hard to not take that on board and see that, so really enjoyed it greatly.
All the best, Robbie. We wish you all the best. Hopefully that camps all can be run back in Iraq and prepare accordingly. But I'm sure you and Arnie have got plans to ensure that you're at a World Cup, and that might be the kudos that you deserve after 20 years in the game, mate. Well done.
Good luck.
I'd love to, mate. And again, thanks for having me on. Hopefully next time we come on, it's we're talking about qualification.
Yeah,
that'll be unreal. You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Ciao.
Still, there it is. And like you said, mate, it's very important for all our coaches. They get, like Robbie Stanton, Graham Arnold, like you said, Ange Postecoglou and everyone else and all the rest that get that exposure. And, one door closed in the Newcastle Jets, but this is a massive window and an opportunity. And for Iraq, if they can be at the World Cup next year, it'll be absolutely huge.
It would be, and it would be good for our coaches. It would be good for our game. It would be good for our two nations. I mean, sports and other facets of life, cultures and all that bring people together, and I think that's important. I've seen some of the footage, and it is all about passion. People in the Western society probably might have a bit of reservation, but it's all the passion that these people have, and they've been through a lot, and they latch on to things of national pride, like the football national team. Very proud people, and great experience for me personally dealing with them as well. Just real passionate. Don't want to get offside with them, but yeah, passionate.